you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, I see you are nestled into your humble abode up in Mont Tremblant. How's it feel to be back up north, my friend?
Very good. Snow is getting better, so I'm excited for the skiers up here. I'm happy for the people that work at the mountain, a lot of the people that I grew up with, and thrilled to death for the people in the town of Saint Javit, because now they can get some income going into Christmas, which is really good. And yeah, the only bad thing is the lake's not frozen, because I was planning on skating, but that's not happening.
Well, I'll tell you, you wouldn't be skating down where I am right now, Pierre. It is a balmy 61 degrees in New Hampshire and Massachusetts in the area here where I am. So, yeah, weird weather. And then it's going to be snowing this weekend. So that's
Snow is a good thing at this time of the year, because that guy named Chris Kringle.
Yeah,
that guy named Chris Kringle needs some snow to do his job. We want him to do his job well. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. I wonder if that guy, Chris Kringle, has some presents for the Buffalo Sabres and the New York Rangers and the National Predators. They could use some Chris Kringle luck, huh?
Yeah, let's just talk about Buffalo for a second. Okay.
Yes. And by the way, they are about an hour south of where you are tonight, getting ready to play the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, they're an hour and 15 minutes south when there's no traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So here's these are only questions, they're not statements.
Okay.
I would like to know who thought it was a good idea about 10 days ago for Kevin Allen to talk about palm trees. Kevin Adams. What did I say?
Allen, Hall of Fame hockey writer.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's a respectful thing for Kevin Allen. He's on top of my brain. For Kevin Adams and to say palm trees and taxes. I want to know who he ran that by, because on this show we said he went rogue.
And I still believe. Yep.
So that's my question. Who signed off on that? That's number one. And then the second one was they've lost 10 games in a row. Their last game was in Toronto, where they had a 2-0 lead, and eventually lost the game 5-3. I would like to know who signed off and thought it was a good idea for their owner to fly in a private plane to Montreal yesterday, and I have to think they thought nobody will even know that he's coming into town to address the team. Who internally thought that was a good idea?
I don't know, Pierre. And I would think that the professionals that owner has hired, where this is their career and they make a living out of, what's the word? Preventing forest fires, so to speak, we'll say, okay, or preventing a firestorm. I don't think they would think it was a good idea. I wonder if this was another case of the owner, Mr. Pagola, just deciding on his own. I'm going to do it. I don't care what anybody says, or maybe they didn't say anything at all, but who knows? But you are going in, and I get what you're saying, Pierre. And this is why I found it interesting. Like, I saw some Montreal media, and I'm not going to name them or anything, but, tweeting this morning after the game day skate in Montreal at the Bell Center, surprised that there was a swarm of media there to meet Lindy Ruff and the players after their skate, or surprised yesterday that there was a swarm of media waiting for them. This is Montreal. This is the hockey mecca of the world. I mean, this is what the majority of the sports media up there are covering. This is their job, to go and uncover big stories. And right now, the Buffalo Sabres are one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest, in the NHL, and for all the wrong reasons. So I'm with you. I don't know what's going on in terms of public relations choices that are being made in Buffalo right now, but they need to rethink it. They need to reel it in right now, because they keep stepping in mines. They keep shooting themselves in the foot, and they're already doing that enough in the ice.
Owners own, presidents preside, managers manage, coaches coach, scouts scout, players play, trainers train. Once you deviate from your lane in that entire equation I just presented, you have this. You have what Buffalo has right now.
Yep. A sideshow. It's a sideshow. And they don't need that right now.
So you don't think there's enough pressure on those young kids in Buffalo to play and win? They're not losing on purpose. Those kids care. And people can say whatever they want. There's not a kid playing in the NHL that doesn't care. Yep. The only way they got there is because they care. I watch that Zach Benson every single night. He plays his butt off. He tries his butt off every game. He's 19 years old. He might weigh 180 pounds, Jimmy. Maybe not.
Yep.
But he's in there battling every day. You think that kid needs more pressure? You think Owen Power needs more pressure on him? You think Tage Thompson needs more pressure on him? You think Alex Tuck needs more pressure on? Like, everything they're doing now is just creating more problems for the team.
I want to ask you something, Pierre. In your days of coaching, whether it was in Hartford or in Pittsburgh
or Ottawa,
did you ever have an owner come down and address the team at any time, whether it was during training camp, whether it was during preseason, regular season, playoffs, for any reason? Did you ever have an owner step foot in that dressing room and address the team directly?
No, never.
I didn't think so.
But that doesn't. So I'm going to step up for Mr. Pegula on this. I'm going to step up for Mr. Pegula on this. He cares a lot. People are saying, these chants of where's Terry? Terry cares. I'll tell you where he is. He's heavily invested in downtown Buffalo. He's heavily invested in Western New York. He's heavily invested in doing things right so that they continue to get better. He's heavily invested in the sporting community of Penn State, Western New York, Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres, infrastructure for college teams like Canisius and Niagara and all those college teams that are there to play, okay? In different – so the stuff about where's Terry? Terry's very apparent. He's put his money where his mouth is. The problem is somebody needs to help him. He would never do that with the Buffalo Bills. No chance. No chance would he do that with the Buffalo Bills. No way.
No. The only time, Pierre, and I don't know. I don't have examples to cite right now. I was just thinking about this right before we came on the air, and that's why I asked you about it. But the only time I could ever imagine an owner stepping into a dressing room would be to, A, congratulate his team on winning a big trophy or, making the playoffs or winning the conference, winning the Stanley Cup, what have you. Or if something, something horrible had happened, like there was a tragedy, somebody died, somebody passed away, God forbid, right? Those are the only two times I could see that happening. But even as I thought about that, Pierre, when I was thinking about victory situations or celebrations, I can't think of a lot of owners that have gone down there and given a speech to the team or anything in the middle of a celebration. If they go down there, they celebrate, they hug each other, they do this, they do that. But now in the middle of a season when a team is going through what this team's going through, I don't know.
You asked me about owners, so I just was thinking off the top of my head, all the different owners that I've worked for. I've worked for the late Mr. DeBartolo, who was from Youngstown, Ohio. They also own the San Francisco 49ers. He never came in our room. I worked for Richard Gordon in Hartford. He never came to our room. I worked for Rod Bryden the first time around in Ottawa. Mr. Bryden was maybe one of the best owners I've ever worked for. He was he's still alive. He's a phenomenal man. And he kept the Ottawa Senators going when a lot of people thought they wouldn't be able to. Right. He never did that. In my second go around in Ottawa, I worked for Eugene Melnick. I never witnessed Eugene Melnick once go in the dressing room and talk to the players about anything. So, this is, again, I'm standing up for Mr. Pegula. I don't know who's helping him here, but I watched Lindy Ruff's press conference after that game in Toronto the other night. And if you're a human being and you watch that and you don't feel bad for that man, there's something wrong with you. And stop saying that the game has passed him by. Are you serious?
I hate that.
That's so sophomoric. It's so sophomoric. The guy's an elite coach. The game hasn't. Look at. You guys may watch TV, and you can rip me apart if you want to. You may watch TV and hear all these fancy terms. The game hasn't changed.
No.
Okay? There's a couple things that have changed. The slingshot on entries on the power plays a little different, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
But I know teams that were doing similar things to that 30 and 40 years ago, okay? One of them were the Montreal Canadiens. Pressure penalty kill, that was the LA Kings under Barry Melrose. They were elite at that. It's not like these are newfangled ideologies. I can go chapter and verse. I coached against Jacques Lemaire, Pat Burns, Pat Quinn, Scotty Bowman. I coached against all those guys when they were Mike Keenan. They were all head coaches. So was I. So I'm tired of people saying The game is Lindy Ruff. The game has not passed him by.
No,
The game has not passed him by.
I just think as a reporter, I never really say that, Pierre, because I think it's a lazy critique. You know, and it's usually interesting. In a lot of people that will say that all the time. Okay, you ask them, all right, give me an example. What about the game has passed them by? And they don't have an answer.
No,
Because
that's a good answer.
It's this in vogue thing to say, right? It's just it's easy to say. It's stylish, so to speak. But it's like, okay, so provide me. Give me a prime example of how the game has passed Lindy Ruff by or any other older coach, and I don't think you're going to be able to do it. Because
So
as you
that's a
said, when it
great
comes down
answer.
to it, the game is the game. Of course, rules change, equipment, technology, I get all that. But when it comes down to it, and you know what? The teams that win, the teams that are always at the top, they're the ones that get that. They get the basic nuances of the game that are still there.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I don't cheer for many teams. I grew up cheering for Montreal. I love Pittsburgh because of the way I was treated there, and I'll always have respect. I'll always have respect for Mario and anything he's a part of, and he's still a minority owner there. So I'll always have respect for that. But there's one team that I really, truly care about, and I always have, even though I had to compete against them a lot, Buffalo, and it's because of the people in Western New York. And you know I've told you that for a lot of years.
You have an
It's
emotional
not-
connection to them.
Yeah, I do, and it's fashionable to bash them, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bash some of the decision making that I don't even know some of these people that are maybe making these decisions, and that's why it's a simple thing for the media there, and they've got some professional guys that cover the team, and they care. They care too.
Yep.
It's a simple thing. Who told Kevin to say that stuff? Like I would ask Kevin. How'd you come up with the palm trees and the taxes? Where did that come from? I would ask that question. And then the second one is, who told Mr. Pagula it would be a smart idea to come into Montreal when trust me, when you come into Montreal on a private plane and somebody picks you up at the airport, you may think it's only two people, the guy working at the gate and the guy driving you. But how many fingers am I holding up, Jimmy?
3.
No, that's 111. One tells one. That's 111. Okay? The guy at the gate tells the guy in the car. The guy in the car tells his friend. And all of a sudden, ba-boom. In Montreal, it's not
age,
3.
where you can text, take pictures.
That's what I'm saying. So that's not 3. That's 111.
Yeah, I know. Nothing is happening anymore.
So I'm just telling you, when you do that in Montreal, especially on an off day, in Montreal, you don't think that somebody's going to try to get a story going?
Of course, they're looking for a scoop. My other question to you, another thing I find interesting, I'm not just singling out Mr. Pagula in this or any GM, is when a GM or an owner publicly say, or I guess he didn't publicly say it, but word is he told the team this. Pagula said to the team that everyone's safe right now. We're sticking with this group, and this is the group that's going to work it out. There's no big trade coming. There's no big change coming. Pierre, the test of time, anytime a GM or a boss says that, within a month is usually a trade or a firing. I mean, it's almost like clockwork. I don't get why to this point in time, people in power still say that. Why lock yourself into that? You don't think that people are going to quote you or not, note it down and say, well, hey, a month ago you said nothing. What changed? Why do you put yourself in that position? I never understood that with people in power. I don't
know. But again, all the owners that I worked for, that never.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? It's common.
100%. Like I worked for Howard Baldwin and Morris Bellsberg in '92 when we won the Cup in '92. They had bought the team from Mr. DeBartolo. I'll tell you this right now. We beat Washington in a Game 7, okay, in Washington. We were opening up in New York. We beat Washington on a Friday night. We were opening up on a Sunday in New York, Game 1.
Yep.
We flew on our plane after the game from BWI to Newark, okay? Right next to our plane at BWI was a smaller little jet. You know what was on it? Our owners. And it wasn't because Scotty told them you can't come on the jet. They knew these guys are in their bubble.
Yeah.
We're going to stay here. They're going to go there, and it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, that's kind of
Yeah.
what we're talking about now.
Exactly.
Owners own. Listen, Jimmy, it's a simple equation. Owners own.
Mhm.
Presidents preside. Managers manage. Coaches coach. Scouts scout. Players play. Trainers train.
Mhm.
Tried and tested formula. Ask the guys in Florida. Ask
And-
the guys in Vegas. Ask
Yep.
Laviolette when he was coaching in Carolina and Jimmy Rutherford was the manager. I'm just telling you, that's how it works.
And I don't know if I'm out of luck. May I throw in PR people take care of the PR?
You
Can
may.
we throw that into the equation there? Okay.
You may. And so the hardest market, I think, to be a PR person is Montreal. I do.
Course. And
you know who's a home run hitter? Chantel Maccabee.
Yep.
Chantel Maccabee. And why is she good? She's
Because
been on
she's
the
on
other
the
side.
side.
She worked on the other side, and she's worked on this side. She knows the people she can trust and the people she can't.
So, Pierre, somebody pointed it out today. Buffalo media member pointed it out today. Do you know what was said 3 weeks before Botterill was fired in Buffalo?
I don't.
By the owner? There will be no
I do
change.
not.
There will be no changes here. And 3 weeks later, he was fired. So, I don't know.
Well, all I'm going to say is
I want to echo what you're saying, Pierre. We're not against Buffalo. I'm not cheering against Buffalo. I don't want to see this stuff happen. I know it's great. You know, it creates fodder for us to talk about and break down and analyze. I understand that. But I'm with Pierre. I don't know a lot of people in Buffalo, but the ones I do, they're salt of the earth type people. They love their sports. I want to see that region do well. I really do. I'm cheering. I'm going to flat out say I'm cheering for, this is a Patriots fan. I'm cheering for the Bills to win the Super Bowl because I think that region deserves a championship. So we're not against Buffalo, but man, they got to stop stepping in it when it comes to ownership and management there. I'm sorry. They have to.
Jimmy, all I'm going to say is the fans deserve better there.
Yep.
They do. And, you know, I can't wait for someday when they do have a championship and you can go see the pictures at Chef's, which is one of the best restaurants in the league. Or you can go see the pictures at the Buffalo Chop House. Or you can go down and eat some wings at Gabriel's Gate. And if you don't like Gabriel's Gate, and you're crazy if you don't, you go to the Anchor Bar. I mean, I know Buffalo really well. I spent a lot of nights there coaching and playing. And I'll just tell you, the people there are awesome. Mm-hmm. Whether you live in North Tonawanda, whether you live in Hamburg, whether you live in Amherst, whether you live in Williamsville, you know, it doesn't matter. You're Buffalonians and you care about your group. And there are people out there that actually respect what you guys go through. There really are. And we're two of them. We're two, and we have no vested interest. We don't pay taxes in Buffalo, even though I lived in New York State for a long time and I did pay taxes there.
Yep.
I would come trim your palm trees if you had them, okay?
I love it, Pierre. I love it. By the way, I'm seeing in the message board there, Habinations, Levi is not. He was sent down. He will not be starting tonight for the Sabres. It is UPL.
Yeah, but that's good.
But we're happy about that.
We're happy about that. No, this is not a knock on Devon Levi.
No.
Get
him away.
Put him in the American League. Let him lead Rochester to a bunch of playoff games and maybe a Calder Cup. Who knows? Then he will be ready. He will hit the ground running next year. He is an elite prospect, and he's an elite player. He is.
You know, I like too Gabriel Lamb here writing, Pierre, and I don't know if we can pull it up, Shane. He says they need to bring someone else from outside the organization to run things. You know, I agree with that, Gabriel, because I've said the same thing a lot covering the Bruins over the years. And the one time, and Pierre and I had this conversation, I believe, when we were over in Ireland, the one time they did, in the 24 years that I've been around the Bruins covering them, the one time that they did bring somebody in from the outside, they won the Stanley Cup, and that was Peter Chiarelli. And then they went back to internal, and they haven't won since. Yes, they've been in the Stanley Cup in 2019. I get it, and they had a great playoff run going. But I'm with you. Sometimes, Pierre, and I don't know, I'd love to get your take on this. Some organizations, sometimes you need a very pure, objective point of view to come in and really see what's wrong and really get a grasp on it. Do you not agree?
Nope. Yes, I do. And I think you said that gracefully. So here's what I would add. I'm going to try to pick my words delicately.
You're good.
I don't think anybody should be losing their job in Buffalo. Anybody. But what I do think is they need somebody with a whack of experience that knows the Eastern Conference really well and has so much pedigree that when he walks in, the fans say, aha, he's built a Stanley Cup winning team. He's built a team that's about to compete for the Stanley Cup. And he actually lived here when his father coached back in the day with the old Buffalo team in the AHL. I don't know what the hesitation is. Ray Shero should be hired by the Buffalo Sabres tomorrow to be the president of hockey operations. He has more experience in one finger than the entire front office has in their entire career.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
And you heard what I said to start. Nobody should lose their jobs.
Nope.
Nobody.
So bring him in as in a president of hockey operations / advisor, whatever you want to call it, type role.
Yes.
I like it. I like it a lot.
It's an easy one. You call Billy Guerin right after we're done the show.
Yep.
Call Billy and say, hey, is Ray Shero helping you? See what Billy says.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you call Tommy Fitzgerald down in Jersey and say, hey, Tommy, that team that you're the GM of, who built that team for you? Who drafted Jack Hughes? Who drafted Nico Hischier? Who drafted Jesper Bratt?
Yep.
Just ask.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. 100% here. 100%. Well, from one tough situation to another, and then we're going to get into some positive stuff because there are some really good positive stories around the NHL that I think need some attention. But a little south, well, actually a lot south because they're in Nashville to take on the Predators. The New York Rangers still trying to find their way out of their mess that they're in right now. And some interesting stories coming out, Pierre, that kind of made us pause, to say the least. There's a story out there that the team had a players-only meeting to decide if they want Chris Drury out as GM. Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying, and obviously it happens right now because everything that's going on around a team, you're going to hear negative stuff about Chris Drury. It's just the way it is. When a team goes bad, you're going to hear negative things about the GM. I'm hearing them, you're hearing them. There's stuff out there in the media. There's stuff we hear off. It is what it is. You take everything with a grain of salt because of the situation. But Pierre, do you think, in all your experience of being in the game, that a players' meeting could lead to a general manager losing his job?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
That's all. That's all. Plain and simple. We'll leave it right at that.
I think it could lead to a coach losing his job.
And it has.
And
We've seen it.
Mm-hmm. I've been party to it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
But not a GM. No, it's not happening. So just, when you see stories like this in the midst of everything going wrong around a team like it is with the Rangers or the Sabres or even the Predators, who the Rangers are playing tonight, just pause before you believe
the GM stuff is going to be simple. It'll fix itself whether they turn it around or not. If they don't turn it around, everything's fair to be asked.
Accountable. Yep.
But if they do turn it around, it's where they're supposed to be. The big concern I have for Rangers right now, for a team that started so well, and they started well. The alienation process, for whatever reason, kicked in about 12 games ago. They're 3-10 in their last 13. 3-10, Jimmy. And one of the wins, they were life and death to beat Buffalo when both teams were just sputtering out of control. And I would just say that if they don't find a way to get Zibanejad engaged, Chris Kreider engaged, Adam Foxmore engaged. I know they lost Keandre Miller and they lost Trouba. So they basically in the last week they lost 2 top 4 defensemen. And the other one is Braden Schneider. And I'm a big Braden Schneider guy.
No, you are.
Huge fan when they drafted him in 2020. He's a young kid that made it pretty quick, but something's happened. He's not the same player right now. Go watch the highlights of some of their games. Go watch some of it, like the St. Louis game. Go watch the highlights of the LA Kings game. You don't have to watch the games. I watch the games for you. Watch the highlights because he's in every one of them or close to it. He needs to get better. So there's certain guys that need to be better there. And I gave you 4 that need to get better.
Okay. Here's another guy that's struggling, obviously, and he was a healthy scratch in the last game, and that's Kakko, Pierre.
Yeah.
You hear his name all over the place, you know, in terms of trade rumors. But I want to ask you, if a team, I don't know, I have no idea. So this is completely hypothetical. But let's just say that the Rangers are listening on him or have let it be known that anyone's available, basically. But if they're having talks about him, right? Does scratching a guy help that? I would feel like it's kind of counterproductive. Don't you want to showcase him a little more?
If they're going to trade him, I don't know if they are. But one of the things I will say in defense of Peter Laviolette, he sat older guys down too. Like Jimmy Vesey's been
I'm not knocking Peter.
No, but I just want you to know Sammy Carrick sat down too. Like they've had older guys sit down.
Yeah.
But sometimes with a younger guy, and I'll just tell you from my experience, sometimes it's better to sit him down, especially on the road. Let him sit upstairs in a press box, hopefully with an assistant coach, and they can have a running dialogue during the game. Like, what would you have thought in this position? What play would you have made in that position? You know, because everything's slower upstairs. So guys can process it easier. And I think in his case, you know as well as I do, that line, and we talked about it from the start, Philip Hedl had a great start, Will Cooley had a great start, and Kaapo Kakko was a big part of that line. That line was real good for the Rangers, real good. And so Kakko is kind of like this right now. He's up and down, peak and valley, peak and valley. They got to get him more peak than valley. And I think he can go there. But again, he's young. We expect 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old guys to be – this is not a man – like it's a man's league. It's not a boys' league.
No.
This is a man's league. You know, okay, Connor Bedard. What did we talk about today? How hard it is. Everybody expect Connor Bedard to just put the Chicago Blackhawks on his back and carry him to the playoffs. Yeah. And Jimmy, what did I say to you? You know what it reminds me of? When Taylor Hall went to Edmonton.
Yep. I didn't know if I was allowed to say that, but yes.
You are. That's fine. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah. And I think it's a great analogy. And for those, that aren't familiar with that situation, go back and look at those years that Taylor Hall spent in Edmonton and ask yourself, what if he had been somewhere else and not in the middle of all that for the beginning? Because look what happened. Once he broke loose, And it's not to rip Chicago saying their rebuild's not working, but it's going to take more time. And I hate to, and this is, I can say it with a clear conscience because we said it before anybody even was talking about Macklin Celebrini, how great he was going to be. And good for Mike Greer and good for the fans in San Jose. Good for those guys. They drafted the right player. Macklin is a superstar. He's not going to be a little bit good. He's going to be really good. But part of the thing is Mike was smart enough to bring in Barclay Goodrow. He was smart enough to bring in Toffoli. He was smart enough to put Will Smith and him together. Smart enough to have him live with Joe Thornton. Like there's so many things that are going right there. Even though, maybe the wins aren't as pronounced as they want them to be. San Jose's done a nice job, and I salute them because last year at this time you couldn't salute them. You didn't know they were drafting Celebrini. No. You had no idea. You didn't know that they were going to sign or get Barclay Goodrow back. You had no idea they were going to sign Tyler Toffoli. You had no idea on any of that stuff. Last year they were in tough shape. Now they're not. And I know you're not going to say it, Pierre, because you're humble, but I'm going to give you credit. I remember back in November of last season. Remember it very well because we were invited on to a podcast with some people that disagreed with us or with you more specifically when you said they need to go out and make those exact type of signings that you just listed there. Yeah. That's what they need to do. They need to insulate. They need to bring that veteran presence in there. They need to take some pressure off the young kid. So,
and they've done it.
You don't want to toot your own horn, but you deserve some credit.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. That means a lot coming from you. It does. But I'm just telling you, they deserve a pat on the back, whether it's Dougie Waite, whether it's Mike Greer, whether it's Ryan Warsofsky, the young coach that's out there, Brian Wiseman, his assistant. whomever made the decision to say we got to get some older guys in here, they did it.
Yep.
They
Some
did
guys
it.
with rings too.
They
Pierre,
did it.
speaking of people that deserve a lot of credit, well, I'll tell you what. Ty Fellhaber last night.
Oh my gosh! Way to go, Jimmy! Way to go!
Yep. After 258 games in the ECHL and the AHL, finally plays his first game in the NHL last night. Congratulations to him. And you know what? You talk about people deserving credit as well, and I think Ty would agree with us. Congratulations to his family, I'm sure, and all the people that believed in him along the way. He made it. He made it to the show, and I love stories like that. I was telling you that off the air. I wish we could talk about it more, you know.
Well,
And we actually have tried. I've reached out to the Avalanche. We're going to try and get Ty on the show this week or next. I just think it's a great story. And so for all of you out there right now, I know we got people that are traveling, playing in the minor leagues, playing in college, what have you. Don't give up. Don't. You never know. You just never know. It can happen. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will. But at least you know you never gave up. And congratulations to Ty on that. I love that story.
One of the coolest parts about the eye test, I think, is all the different players that ride a lot of buses that I get to communicate with, or you get to communicate with, and I always forward them the show because they ask for it. And it's awesome. You know, some guys are doing great. Other guys, they're down in the dumps. They want to ask questions so that they ask. And, you know, Jimmy knows, like, we're never out of time where we can't get to somebody. If you ask a question or you want something, we're going to help you. We may not be right, but we're going to try our best to be right.
Exactly.
And I got some guys that I train that are playing at different levels, and really proud of some, all of them. I'm proud of all of them. I shouldn't say some. I'm proud of all of them. And some are doing really well and others not as well. And it's a hard time, especially around Christmas, Jimmy. It's a hard time for a lot of these guys. A real hard time.
It's got to be. And another good story, Pierre, too, and I know you'll love this too because, we're both big components of trying to spread the game. Obviously, that was part of our passion for going over to Ireland and Northern Ireland with Carrot Travel and with the Friendship 4. Kevin He becomes the first China-born player.
I saw that today, yeah.
He signs in the NHL with the Winnipeg Jets. Pierre, so I'm sitting there and I see this story earlier today. And I'm looking at the kid and I'm like, I met this guy. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm like, I met this kid. I know I have. I remember. And it's driving me nuts. And so it was with a friend when we were in Las Vegas for the draft. I met him in the lobby of the Bellagio. He was there with his family before the draft. I bumped into him and you could tell he was one of the kids there hoping to be drafted. Struck up a conversation with him and his family. They were so nice. So congratulations to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I figured I know this guy, man.
That's
so I figured it out. Pretty cool. But that just shows you the game. I mean, 30 years ago, I don't know if people would have thought you'd be able to say that there's a player born in China now playing in the NHL. I think that speaks volumes about.
Right. No, he's not there yet. He's not there yet.
He's signed.
He's signed.
Yep.
He's a signed player.
Yep.
So I don't want people in Winnipeg thinking they lost their jobs. He's not there yet.
All right. One story that's great, but has hit a speed bump. But he'll be back. We know he will, though. And you wanted me to ask you about him, Pierre. Anthony Stolarz, news brace. Tough news for him and for the Leafs. He's going to need knee surgery again. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Kind of a far cry from what they originally thought, but he's still going to make it back in time. He's not out for the season. Yeah. He'll come back. One thing, Pierre, before you give your take on this, I don't think in previous seasons, if the Toronto Maple Leafs were getting good goaltending and that goalie went out for 4 to 6 weeks, I think it would be a lot more doom and gloom in Toronto. But one thing I've noticed just from responses around social media right now, because of Joseph Woll, if he can stay healthy and how he's been good as well, and also just the way the team is playing and the structure they have to overcome something like this. It's a different tone there in Toronto. A couple of years ago, I think it would have been the sky's falling if this happened.
Don't forget Dennis Hildeby that got their last win against Buffalo. So they're deeper in goal than they have been in a long time. So hats off to them. They recognize the need for that. Brad Treliving identified some pretty important needs. That Stolarz signing from the summer, I don't know if it was Brad or the pro scouts or the goalie coaches, whomever, the Stolarz one, and we talked about it right when it happened. That was maybe the biggest steal of the summer. And because he's a zero maintenance player, and he played junior in London, even though he started his, upper echelon career with Nebraska Omaha, he's a good player. And I think with Wall, who's had a lot of taste now for the NHL, and Hildeby, who's had a taste for the NHL, they're in pretty good stead. But I love your point, Jimmy, about the way Craig Berube's coaching this team and the way they're playing. And so you've added Tanev, you added Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Don't forget how well McCabe plays in a matchup situation, takes huge pressure off of Morgan Riley. Simon Benoit is a real good penalty killer and a big physical guy in the back end. Totally different Toronto team. We already remember the other day we talked about their left wings. Yeah. I mean, you think about the size with Matthew Nyes, you think about Max Pacioretty, you think about Bobby McMahon, and then you add in Steven Lorentz. There's not one guy shorter than 6'2", and there's not one guy that weighs less than 205 pounds.
Yeah.
It's not even close in the league.
Yeah, I know.
That's the biggest left wing in the National Hockey League. And they're going to crush. I'm telling you, if you play against them in a playoff series, your right defense better be robust, because they are going to break you in half.
Yeah. You know what? That's an exercise. We should go down the list of right defenses in the Eastern Conference with playoff teams right now. Someday I want to look at it to see if anyone could challenge them. All right, Pierre. Let's get over. We're going to go to the Q&A in a second, but we got an announcement to make before I give you my picks for Betway.
I pressured you into it, didn't I? I pressured you. Yesterday, I was on you. I was on you hard.
That's right, my friend. So I put the pressure on. We've got it done. We're very excited to announce. So we already told you for the Montreal Four Nations face-off games that whole week, we will be at McLean's in Montreal, at the McLean's Public House, not the old one on Lower Peel, the Upper Peel one at 1420 Peel Street in Montreal. McLean's Public House. It's brand new. It's beautiful. Highly suggest even way before then, if you're in the area, go check it out. Tell them we sent you. So yes, the eye test will be there. And then the following week on February 17th, there are 2 games in Boston. It's actually President's Day here in the States. So it's a holiday. So they have a 1 p.m. matinee, and then they have an 8 p.m. game. We will be broadcasting in between, times to be determined, but we will be in between the 2 games. And we're going to be over at West End Johnny's. West End Johnny's is if you go across the street, you're walking out of TD Garden and you're looking at Causeway Street there, and you're looking across and you have all those streets, Canal, Portland. There's just a row of streets and there's all bars everywhere. You want to go to Portland Street, walk down Portland to the end right before it curves, and you'll see West End Johnny's on the corner then. They also have a place over by Fenway Park, which is very nice as well. You can check that out if you're ever over at a Sox game. But we will be at West End Johnny's on the 17th of February and the 20th for the championship game of the Four Nations. So we're very excited about that. And also, we will be at West End Johnny's the 2 weeks before that. So we're going to be there a lot in February, because we will be there for both Mondays of the Bean Pod as well. And for all you Northeastern fans, wink, wink, Mr. McGuire.
That's why I wore this.
They are the home bar for the Bean Pod for Northeastern hockey. So we'll see a lot of red, white, and black over there, Pierre, when we're over there. A lot of Huskies fans over at West End Johnny's. Really looking forward to that. I had a great conversation with Johnny today. Yeah. Really cool guy. He actually used to work, the owner, he used to work for the Red Sox. He has 3 World Series rings from when he was with them. So pretty cool.
I'm just so pumped we were able to do this, Jimmy. You deserve a big pat on the back. You worked your tail off to get this done. And I walked by McLean's Public House last night after I met Mitch Melnick.
Oh, cool.
And it's a heck of it's going to be really good. I didn't go in.
Yeah,
I walked. Yeah,
you're a good boy. You had to get home and watch the hockey.
I did, and I didn't want to be bothered. I wanted to get home. I had dinner with my mom early at Vago, which is an amazing place. One of the sponsors of another show that I do. Vago's amazing. Yeah. And then I went and met Mitch Melnick, and we visited for about an hour and a half, and then I walked back to my mom's place and stayed overnight in Montreal last night. But yeah, I walked. And
how's our friend Mitch Melnick? He's good.
Elite. He's elite. He looks fantastic.
You know, he was not. I was getting a bit worried because he wasn't hosting his show today. John's still filling in for him, but it must have been a scheduled day off. So
I can't say it publicly, but it's only good news. It's only good news for Mitch and his family, and I'm very excited for them. And that's all I can say.
That's fine. As long
So
as
it's all
good news.
good. Everything
That's
is
good.
good.
And you know what, Pierre, as I'm thinking here, maybe I'll sneak up there during the holidays and you and I will do a little scouting trip at McLean's Public House.
Scouting is a good thing. I like scouting.
We'll do that. All right, let's get and tell you about our sponsor, Betway. They're still running that great deal that's good for people that lose a lot like me. You can bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. You go to Betway right now. You can scan the QR code in front of you, sign up there, or you can go to the website and sign up. Of course, you got to be 18 plus, always bet responsibly. And right now that offer is not available in Ontario and is only available to new members. All right, let's get to my picks of the day. Here's your sick pick of the day.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, I got 3 separate bets for you. I'm actually on a little winning streak, Pierre, so not bad. No parlays, but 3 separate bets, and I'm feeling under the influence, pun intended. Give me the under 6.5 in the Sabres Habs. Give me the under 6.5 in the Bruins Flames, and give me the under 6 in the Kraken Sens. The last one there, I think it's going to be a pretty good goaltending battle. Linus Ullmark's coming in. He's looking great right now. And then, as I was saying, Pierre, one of the better stories that I don't think is getting enough credit right now in the NHL is Joey Decord. Goalie for Seattle Kraken. He's on a 500 club right now, but yet if you go and look at the goaltending stats, he's in the top 5 of pretty much every category right now. So good for him. He's having a great season there with the Kraken. All right, let's get to the Q&A. What do we got? Filterless Bear. With the way the Habs are playing so inconsistent this year, would you lock all the boys in Laval there for the remainder of the year? I feel those kids would be better served winning in Laval.
I've been saying it for a long time. I don't want to see Logan Mailloux up, even though I've had coaches in the American Hockey League say he's too good for our league. He's got to get out of here. I want to see him lead this team to a championship. Owen Beck is going to be a longtime NHL player. I don't want to see him rush. Let him go dominate, play as far as they can play. I think Tuck and Jackeye, Florian Jackeye and Luke Tuck, 2 other guys that I think are playing fantastically well there. Let them stay down there. So no rush. The only time I do anything is if there was an injury situation.
Right.
And then I might think about maybe Joshua Roy, who's got a little bit more experience, or maybe Laurent Dauphin, who's got a little bit more experience. But no, most of the other guys I want them marinating down there. I think Filterless Bear is spot on.
Yep, overripe. That's what we always say. All right, next question. Marco Larebe, do you think it's smart for the Sabres to leak details of that meeting? It's one thing to tell the players that solutions will come from within, but doesn't that hamstring the GM? Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much what we were saying earlier, Marco. You're dead on. We agree.
Every time, Marco, you know what? Marco's such a voice of reason. I love his statements and I love his questions because that's perfect. It's kind of, look at what happened in New York with the Rangers. When did all this start to go south? When stuff were leaked out.
Yep.
I can tell you, this used to be a test when I first came in the league. They might tell you something from upper management, and they were testing you to see if you would say anything to the newspapers.
Yeah.
Because they'd only tell one person, you. And if it got in the newspaper, you would be in big trouble.
Or maybe not even have a job.
Or you might lose your job. Yeah. So I'm just telling you, somebody's leaking.
Yeah.
Like in New York, somebody's leaking. I don't know who it is, but somebody's leaking.
Yeah. There was some leak, I'm not going to get into it, but I don't like the leaking that's been going on in Anaheim either regarding head coach Greg Cronin, but that's for another day. All right, next question. Randy Workman. Question. We'll ask my question while I can. Leafs losing Stolarz, does that lose them the division? Nope. So. You just said I think they're in a great position to overcome this injury, Randy. It's a great question, but it's a different team now. They're different.
It's fair to ask that. I mean, Florida, look at Florida. I mean, if you look at the division, Toronto, Florida, Boston, and Tampa, right? You would give or take hey, let's see what Ottawa does in this road trip. This is a huge road trip for them. And
it really is.
What happened to Brady Tkachuk? Is he still playing in Ottawa?
Yes.
Okay. I just was checking on that. Because I read a lot of columns that he was supposed to be traded somewhere.
Yeah, he's still there. Okay.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Florida, Pierre. I just want to credit that. That was a gutsy win by them. I really want to give them credit for that.
You know why they won that game? You know why they
Edmonton
won
can't
that?
defense?
Well, because one team knows how to close a team out and play D, and the other one doesn't.
Exactly. All right. And by the way, that goal, Reinhardt, off the mask.
Hold it. You know where he used to play? Buffalo.
Yes, Buffalo. All right, next question. Mike, when these leaks happen, are there meetings Pierre just answered you, Mike. How do teams deal with this? Yes, there are. Yep.
Unless I can tell you there are other times
Well, the leaks
where
could be
a
from the top.
GM will tell a guy, you go into the press box in a different city and make sure you get this name out, this name out, this name out. That happens too. And that's an acceptable form. You know, they were talking about soft tampering, and I said, there's no such thing as soft tampering. Either you tampered or you didn't tamper.
Yeah.
In this case, the general manager may say, Jimmy, you're going into Chicago. They got a lot going on there. Put some names out there. Let's start trolling for some bites.
Yeah.
What happens? That happens too. You know, you've had guys do it to you.
Yep. I've been used like a rented mule.
I know you have. I know.
Part of the game. All right, next question. Ed Tamboni, Jimmy, Pierre, the Habs need an experienced right D. Can you guys identify a couple around the league that might be suitable to pursue?
This is so spot on by Ed, by the way.
I
I talked about it with Tony Marinaro the other night after the Canadiens game. And so spot on. Like, that's, if you were to look at it, just a team building exercise. What do we need? There are two things we need to identify. One, center ice play, number one. Number two, right defense. Now, Logan Mayo is going to have a chance to be that guy down the road, and we'll see what else they can come up with. But I think that making a trade for one of those right now is pretty hard. I wouldn't be able to identify. I'll give you an example. The LA Kings are one of the only teams in the league right now playing 11-7. They play 11 forward, 7D. The reason why they're doing that is because Drew Doughty's not there.
Yeah.
So you got your depth of the roster, and he's a right D. They're not moving anybody, and they dress an extra guy to eat up his minutes. So it's an example. It's hard to find those guys right now. It's really hard to find right D. Really hard.
Okay, next question. Alex Ivanowski, what players out of Philly's young group of players do you see becoming part of their future core besides Michkov? Do Tippett and Konechny stick around, given they're in their upper 20s? Well, Konechny's a UFA after this season, so that's something to keep an eye on.
Travis Sanheim just signed a long deal. Like, Travis Sanheim he's staying there. He's staying there. I think they're a group that's still in flux. I love the way John's coached them, Tortorella. I really do. It deserves a lot of credit. They've got some kids coming. You know, don't forget that. They've got some kids coming. What'll be interesting to me is to see where Bobby Brink ends up. I think he's one that to be interesting to see whether he can, as a smaller guy, whether he fits into what they're trying to do. So we'll see. Not easy. Morgan Frost, another one. I don't know what direction they're going to go with Morgan. I just don't know.
All right, next question. Steve Lash, thoughts on Cam Fowler trade over the weekend? His name was floated around for some time. The trade finally happened, and the freeze starts Friday. Do you think we see any activity before? Steve, my thoughts on the Cam Fowler trade, good for him. I think, time to move on. Like you said, it's been rumored forever. I like where he ended up. He's in Jim Montgomery's team now there. It's a fresh start for him. As far as before the freeze, I don't know. I can tell you, Pierre, I mean, there's chatter, but I don't know if something happens before. I mean, we're 48 hours away?
Yeah,
right?
The one thing I'd watch, if the Rangers lose tonight in Nashville, I think all bets are off on anything.
Or Buffalo loses in Montreal.
Even, I don't know about them doing a deal, but
Okay.
I think Rangers lose tonight. They go into Dallas for Friday night.
Oh yeah, because they got the extra day off. Good call.
I don't know. They got an extra day. I just don't know, based on what Drury's been saying, or somebody in the organization's been saying.
Yep.
So that's the only one where I could say, you know what, if anything, before the deadline, before the trade freeze, if they were to lose tonight, I think they're in game. They're in play.
Yeah. I would say too, Pierre, the one thing to keep an eye on though is coming out of that freeze. There's obviously a lot of groundwork and legwork for potential deals being chatted about right now. Maybe they come to fruition in the weeks after the freeze there. We'll see.
Hey,
I
before
think
you,
it's
before you
more
go,
actually usual in January. I'll tell
yeah,
you that.
before you go any further, weren't you asking me yesterday about Vancouver?
I was.
Yeah. And what did I tell you?
I told you that. Well, you told me nothing yet, but
Don't
you also
worry.
agreed with
Don't
me.
worry. Don't worry about Vancouver.
Yep, because Jim Rutherford always.
Well, I
finds
think they beat Colorado 3-1, if I remember correctly, last night.
They did.
Oh yeah,
It's
I
such
thought
a
so.
big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, they did. They
This-
did. That was one of my picks.
I know.
All right.
Everybody overreacts. It's 82 games. The
Yeah.
season's 82
Oh,
games.
I'm high on Vancouver.
Okay. Because
One
I
of
don't
my
want I don't want talk to come and find you and
No. They're
We
one of
have
my
to
final four
protect you.
teams. Trust me.
okay.
All right. Next
okay.
question. Alex Evanowski. I think fans need to be educated properly on how long a total rebuild takes. I think so much of the anger comes from misinformation and feelings of empty promises and being misled on timelines. 5 to 7 years accurate. Alex, so happy you said that. I think a lot of it's social media too, from quote unquote scouts out there that hype players up a little too much, and it's not fair to the player. It's detrimental to their development, in my opinion.
I don't need to say anything else. My partner nailed it.
All right. Next question. Gabriel Lamb. Is Ken Holland or someone on that level someone that Buffalo should bring in to help Adams? I feel like someone that has different perspective on things should help. Bingo, Gabriel. I think he'd be he's a perfect example of what we're trying to talk about.
Yeah,
in terms of bringing in a different perspective.
Kenny definitely is doing some work for the NHL right now, and I can tell you, general managers were really impressed by how he carried himself with hockey operations presentations over the last 10 days to 2 weeks. So I'm not surprised. You know that the icing rule where you can't change on an icing, Kenny Holland was one of the real proponents of that, really one of the creators of that. So that's been a tremendously important rule for the league.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's really helped hockey, I think, in a good way.
Yep.
And Kenny's a brilliant hockey guy. I could no problem with him going there. I think there'd be other places for him to go, and that's why I said Ray Shero. I just know both guys really well, and I think there's other places where Kenny might end up.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Ray would be maybe a better fit in the Buffalo just because of the knowledge of where they are right now as a group.
Yep. All right. Next question. Brandon Parker. Pierre, what are some keys to victory for Montreal tonight? Thanks as always, guys. Happy holidays. Same to you, Brandon.
Brandon, I love the question. So the first thing I'd say is start the game on time. The Canadians, for whatever reason, usually don't start the games on time. So if it says 7 o'clock, that means it's probably starting at 7:08. Start at 7:08, right from the first puck drop. Get pucks in deep, go after their D, really be aggressive, work the cycle, break their end zone coverage down. They're going to be protecting the house. That's how Lindy Ruff coaches. Take 3 penalties or less and engage your power play. Be a lot better than what you were in Winnipeg, and be a lot better than what you were against Pittsburgh before you went to Winnipeg. But start on time. Start on time.
Next question. Mike, I am very intrigued in Dylan Cousins. I think he can explode if he's traded, like a lot of other former Sabres. What do you guys think his ceiling is? I think he has. I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. Pierre, to you?
No.
I think he could definitely help another team.
I think there were some moments early in his career where he was going the right way, and it just becomes very laborious. And it's ask any player that's been through it. When you're part of losing for so long, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yep. I think, it's a great point there. Like we talk about all the players. You mentioned Reinhart before, and all the players that have gone on and done great things after leaving Buffalo. Pierre, how about, I don't know how you do it, but you change that narrative. Like that would be, if I know you can't do something like this midseason, but if I'm whoever the GM, whoever's the hockey operator, whoever's in charge in the summer, I'm sitting down, I'm going to say, enough. I'm tired of watching guys that we foster for a bit and we try to develop and it doesn't work and they go on and they succeed somewhere. We got to stop this and we have to change. That would be the biggest thing to me because they have drafted good players. It's been what happens to them once they're there. Why is this happening? We talk about, players not being ripened enough. They come up too soon. That's an issue. Just really identify those issues. And maybe, just maybe, things will start to turn around there, Pierre.
What's the most important thing a general manager has to do when he's evaluating his team?
Know his players better than anyone else.
Be the ultimate expert of his team. If
Yep.
he doesn't know more about his players and where they fit on his team than anybody else in the league, he's toast. He's no good as a manager. One of the biggest trades we've seen in the history of the NHL, I think, was a 10 or 11 player deal between Toronto and Calgary. Okay?
Exactly.
Toronto had a new general manager at the time named Cliff Fletcher.
Okay.
He came from Calgary. He gave the job to his underling, Doug Riseborough, who was just learning how to be a GM. Guess what happened? Toronto crushed Calgary in the deal.
I know.
They got the best player, Dougie Gilmour, and a bunch more.
Yep.
And the rest is history.
That
The
was
reason why it worked, one guy knew both sides of the deal, and one guy only knew half the deal.
Yep.
And the guy that knew half the deal got smoked.
What about Pierre? Is it you say, okay, if the guy doesn't know his own players, he's toast. Is there a chance? Now, I don't know if I feel like we're kind of past that chance when it comes to Buffalo. But when you get there, okay, let's say you get hired, but you still don't. Is there a chance you can still change that and learn your own players before it's too late?
Yeah, but that's when you need to have a veteran guy above you who tells you, here's how you self-correct.
Yep.
And so you self-correct by doing X, Y, and Z. You may be looking at the wrong things. Maybe a lot of guys get fixated on numbers. A lot of guys get fixated on salary cap. A lot of guys get fixated on what a player makes and what his production is.
Yep.
That's not being an expert on your team.
No.
It's where does a player fit in terms of the scheme you want to create? And you have to talk to your coach about that. What's the role that the player's going to play? You know, Phil Deneau makes good money. Phil Deneau makes really good money.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to give you a ton of points.
No.
But the coaches, and Jim Hiller in particular, and DJ Smith, know how to use them.
Exactly.
DJ was coaching in Ottawa when Phil Deneau was playing in Montreal. I had to play against him a whack of times. So, Jimmy, I'll just throw it out there. The Dallas Stars are number one in the league in team defense. They've given up 75 goals in 30 games. The LA Kings are second in the league in team defense without Drew Doughty. They've given up 76 goals in 30 games. Those are managers that have talked to their coaches about the players and the roles they're going to play.
Where the pieces fit. Yep. I'm with you.
So they're experts. You know, Jimmy Nill's an expert on his team. Rob Blake in LA is an expert on his team.
Yeah.
And it's working for them because they have an interplay with their coaches.
Yep. Very well said, my friend. And on that, we will conclude this one. But I think that's perfect what you said there. And I've got a bunch of players going through my head who I seen be criticized because of their contract. But if you took a step back, you'd realize, you know what? They might not be getting the points, but they're doing what they're paid to do. And that's not necessarily getting 100 points a year. It's being valuable to your team in whatever capacity you can. So,
Scotty never wanted to know how much any of our players made because you want to judge them on their salary.
Yeah.
Didn't want them. Want to judge them by what they did on the ice.
Good.
And eye-opening experience for those of us that paid attention and listened.
Yep. That's what you got to do is listen. Listen more. All right. Listen to me. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Shane. And thank you to our viewers and listeners over here in the chat room. We love your questions. And again,
don't forget, salute our new sponsors.
Yes, we're very excited to be doing some work and doing some remotes at West End Johnny's in Boston on Portland Street, right down the street from TD Garden for the Bean Pot and the Four Nations. And of course, McLean's Public House. Shout out to our good friend Stu Ashton for helping to set that up in Montreal the week before that for the games there in Montreal. And by the way, Sarah Stanton says to say hello to you, Pierre. I had a good conversation with her today.
Oh, great. Sarah's awesome.
Her brain's already going for the next 4 friendship fours. It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah, she's plugged in. She knows what she's doing for sure. So, Jimmy and I are really proud that we got asked back. We're really excited. We're really
very excited. And you know what, Pierre, we'll talk off the air, but she's got some really cool ideas going forward to complement the tournament. So I'll talk to you later about that.
Well,
All right. Anyhow, great
Oh,
show.
I got one other thing. I'm
Yes.
on Marinero show tonight. Every weeknight after Canadians games, I'm on Marinero show.
All right. Anything else in terms of the Bet Rivers you want to send out there?
Yeah, I want to salute my partner, Julie Stewart-Binks, who I work with every Monday morning. It's called McGuire Mondays on Toronto Sports Rush. She's the one that actually broke the story on Stolarz. She sent it to me early this afternoon. I don't think she's getting any credit for it, but she sent it to me way before.
She's great.
She's tremendous.
Yeah.
Love working with Julie. She's outstanding, passionate. And you know what's pretty cool about Julie? She just passed her American citizenship exam. She's an American.
wow.
She's a dual citizen. She's a really neat young lady. I really enjoy working with her. Really
Awesome.
enjoy it.
We'll have to get her on the eye test sometime. Tell her she's welcome anytime.
You know what? That's good for next week. I'm going to tell her that 100%. Yeah,
Anytime.
she'd be really good.
Awesome. Well, listen, until tomorrow, this has been another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.